When I was 22, a man lied to me about his identity. I learned he lied about his age, background, and most importantly the fact he was married. Posted by Revolutionary Cap 967. If you like these stories and want to see more, please like and subscribe. When I was 22, I'm now 27, I met a guy. He was the first guy I had ever dated at that point. I met him in one of my volunteer activities. I was a volunteer, but the institution employed him. I was so naive with dating and so insecure, I completely ignored all the red flags. We were Facebook friends, and I always found it interesting that he didn't have his actual name. It was some weird name Rock plus his last name. I thought it quirky, but he had other people from the institution as friends and posted things about his work. So I just ignored and chucked it to mean a quirky personality. At work, he was super friendly to me, and one night, we were talking. I was in my last year of college, and he was asking me questions. At that time, he told me he was 31. I was intrigued because I was inexperienced, and a man, a 31-year-old, was paying attention to me and even flirting. He told me he had gone to some big art school in NYC but had to withdraw because of personal reasons, but that he continued to draw regardless. He began flirting more and more until one day, we agreed to go out. He said he wanted to see the college party life. I was not a party girl. I studied mostly. We went to the bar, and he bought so much alcohol. And I was so inexperienced that I got drunk. Thankfully my best friend was there, and she helped me. While I was drunk, he felt me up and even tried to have sex with me while I was very drunk. I was still a virgin then. My friend thankfully came and stopped things. This should have served as a major red flag, but I was so happy a man liked me like that. Fast forward, and we end up in a casual relationship for a few months. He was always weird about when we met up, and I thought it was because of work. I never noticed a ring, nor did he ever mention a marriage. One day at work, another coworker made a vague comment but alluded to him being married. I confronted him about it, and he told me that he was in the middle of a divorce. That he had been separated from his wife for quite some time and needed to be separated for 12 months to finalize his divorce. Seemed like a reasonable response at the time, and because we were casual, I felt it wasn't my place to keep asking more. I never saw a ring, and he never wore one, so he didn't have a reason to think he was lying to me about the divorce. Fast forward a couple of weeks, and one day I get a Facebook message from a woman. The message was in Spanish, and it said that I needed to get a man of my own and leave her husband alone. I was so confused with this message that, at first, I ignored it. And then the woman wrote back asking me why I was being a coward and not responding to her. I responded and said that she must be mistaken, that I didn't know what she was talking about. And then she told me her husband's name and his workplace. I told her that the man that I knew that name was single, that he was divorced. She told me that she had found text messages between him and me and that he had told her that I was harassing him. And that he was trying to be polite, so work would it be weird between him and me. So he played along in the text messages to keep the peace at work. That was his explanation for our text messages to her. I decided to meet her and talk face to face because I was so confused. When we met, she looked me up and down, and rightfully so. She was very hurt. She told me that I didn't look like the type of woman her husband liked. And that I was too fat and generally ugly, and she couldn't believe that her husband came on to me. To say my interaction with her was traumatic is an understatement. It took 4 years of therapy to overcome everything from my interaction with them. I felt so bad that I had been used in this manner and learned so much from her. I learned that they had 2 kids and had been married for a very long time and that his age was 36, not 31. I felt like my world was ending. It was my first relationship. At first, I tried to help his wife out of guilt and because she had said she feared him. She told me about an incident with a knife, and I felt so worried for her. I eventually realized she was just as sick as him. He found out that I'd been talking to his wife. And he had sent me offensive and harassing messages. He would send me messages telling me that I was a pig and that he couldn't believe he had managed to sleep with me. Even though he told his wife, he never did. And he would go off sending me messages like that, telling me how I was ugly and his wife was the best thing that ever happened to him. And his wife would not be afraid to ask me questions about the sex life I had with him. And he would constantly ask me how he did it. He finds people like you repulsive. He would say I am his type, not you. They kept those conversations with me and sent me those messages for about 2 weeks. The last thing was when I confronted him at work because I was distraught. I hadn't talked to him since his wife had reached out to me. And he tried to hurt me and tell me that I was the one that messed up, that I shouldn't have said anything to his wife because his wife didn't know anything. That I essentially ended the relationship by keeping him up to his wife. And he tried to hug me like nothing was wrong. He said that if I hadn't said anything, we could still be something. I was so upset that I messaged his wife, asking her to make sure that her husband never tried to touch me again. After that, she called me and essentially set me up, and he was listening in on the call. He chimed in and eventually threatened me and told me to watch myself at work. I was so distraught and heartbroken. I felt guilty, and I never thought someone could use me like that. I had never wronged them not knowingly, and the way that they both treated me was so painful. Fast forward about 2 years later, and I found him on dating apps. And when his wife and I talked, she was convinced that he would never do this again because she had threatened to leave him. And it made me laugh because he was abusive towards me, and she wanted to ensure he was all hers. Which I never tried to take him away from her. And she would tell me how they went to therapy, and he confessed his love for her there. She told me all of this to hurt me, even though I didn't do anything or say anything to indicate I even wanted him. So it made me laugh when I saw his daily profile, knowing very well that he was still married. And now for the top comments. I am so sorry that he was your first. You have to know it wasn't you. He was a predator. He knew what he was doing. He saw you were young, very vulnerable and naive. He and his wife are very sick individuals that deserve each other. The one thing good that you can take away from this is, you will never be that foolish and naive again. Also, know this: if you are interested in someone, nothing is not your business. Period. If you are just dating, okay. But once you decide to be serious and commit and get physically intimate, then you ask as many questions as you want. If they give you a hard time about it, then walk away. Set boundaries and don't let anyone break or bend them, because of that happened to you, so you can protect yourself. You make sure one of your self-boundaries is full disclosure of their past and present relationships. People like them need to be isolated from the rest of society. I honestly wish we could take all people like them and put them together far away from everyone so they can deal only with others like them. And now for our next story. Did I make the right choice? Posted by Curvaceous Square. Me, M19, and my girlfriend, G18, have been dating for 5 months. Everything was amazing. I loved her, and I thought she loved me. She was my first, but I've seen a lot of toxic relationships from my mother over the years, constantly cheated on, and she tried to fix it, never worked. I always had to comfort. Well, my girlfriend in the last month was telling me she felt like I didn't love her and that I was going to leave her. I always, no matter what, reassured her of my commitment and love. But there were a few incidents where guys were being inappropriate over text, and she wasn't stopping them. I would get upset by this and ask her to stop contacting these people for obvious reasons and tell her that even though I love her, I won't deal with her talking to guys who want to sleep with her or have bad-mouthed me. She understood that if I had seen this again, we were over. Unfortunately, just a few days ago, I was up earlier than her, and her phone got a message. I had a gut feeling to check, and sure enough, it was a guy on Snapchat asking when they could hang again. I ignored this and scrolled up a bit to see that not only have they hung out before without my knowledge, but she was referring to me as her roommate. I was so crushed, as I thought things would get better. But aside from the Snapchat guy, a guy I had previously told her to stop messaging was still talking to her through an archived chat on Messenger. I woke her up, told her we were done and that she needed to be out by the end of the day. I left the room to her and walked away. She was sobbing, and I felt like a terrible person. But the feeling of betrayal was also prominent. She told me she only talked to the Snapchat guy for nicotine pods, and the Messenger guy was a family friend from work that, kept in mind, was constantly making remarks about her body. I won't lie, I'm devastated, and I want her back so bad, but I just can't shake that feeling that I need to let go. Thoughts? And now for the top comments. The only reason I would call my boyfriend something else that implies we have a merely platonic relationship, such as friend or roommate, is to hide the fact that, well, he's my boyfriend. Now, why would I do that to a guy that's overtly flirting with me? Exactly. To insinuate that things are allowed to happen between us, or at least continue leading him on. Obviously, if there's no reason to bring up my relationship status, I wouldn't just randomly shove it in people's faces that I'm dating someone. However, in cases like this where I would want to stop someone from pursuing anything with me, I 1000% would. This would be my thought process. Hopefully, this demonstrates that the decision you made, in my opinion, was the right one. You deserve someone that respects you and is happy to show off the fact that you are their boyfriend. Good luck in healing quickly and finding someone better. You did a fantastic job, the mate she didn't respect you. For what it may be worth, you saved yourself from future pain and suffering. She was lying to you. She was entertaining inappropriate advances from other guys, referring you as a roommate. There are so many red flags that one can count. Take some time off from relationships and use it to improve yourself and grow. And do not take her back no matter what she says or how much she cries. What's your say on this? Do you have a similar story? Comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.